from what I understand, so आप बोल रहे हो कि like in the future, dollar जो है, it will depreciate against the rupee.
See, first of all, I cannot say anything with
Yeah, I mean, I know,
certainty.
but that is your view, right?
My view is based on historical patterns. See, the dollar since 1971, when the Bretton Woods was removed or ended by Richard Nixon by delinking dollar with gold, 71 to 85 was the first full cycle. 71 to 78, the dollar was depreciating. 78 to 85, the dollar was appreciating. Then 1985, when something called the Plaza Accord happened, we'll discuss it later. The dollar started going down again. So 85 to 95, the dollar was falling. Then 1995 to 2002, the dollar was rising. 2002 to 2011 was the last period when the dollar was falling. The last half cycle. Or maybe towards the end, global financial crisis was, so realistically, 2002 to 2007 was the period. It is not a coincidence that those are the best 5 years of the Indian market. And उस समय तो SIP का culture भी नहीं था. Right? So I'm not saying that we are going to see those exact returns. I mean, I want to be very clear because this time the starting valuations are different. There are many other factors. But the broad pattern is interesting. And this time, actually, the dollar half up cycle has lasted for 14 years, as opposed to the last two times when they lasted for 7 years each. 78 to 85, 95 to 2002. Why? Because COVID extended the cycle. So a lot of people, including myself, were wrong about timing the dollar down cycle. Because for one reason or the other, it kept on getting extended. COVID, Russian invasion of Ukraine, a lot of small things like big tech, etc. But then, of course, Trump coming, dollar spiking now, with reality hitting the dollar coming back again. So that's not an excuse. In markets, being early is being wrong. I always believe that, including for myself. You're wrong. That's fine. That does not mean that the fundamental understanding of the cycle changes. It just means the timing changes. So this time, because there are no more major events on the horizon, although, black swan by definition is a black swan. Nobody thought of the pandemic. Nobody thought of even wars necessarily. But the big elections, for example, in India and US are done. India's state elections are done. Right? Whatever one thinks in terms of political preference, there was some uncertainty in the Lok Sabha election that was kind of undone after the BJP did well in the state elections. So the long story short is there is political stability. There is good macro in India with low inflation, decent growth. It was much higher the last couple of years. This year was a bit lower, FY25. FY26 should see some rebound. So it seems now on the domestic side and more importantly on the foreign side, with the dollar cycle anyway extended and the trade war happening, Europe therefore loosening the fiscal purse strings, trying to get some military autonomy, some tech autonomy. China is likely to do another fiscal stimulus because of the trade war. And in general, US exports becoming very uncompetitive. The Trump team itself wants the dollar to weaken. They will not publicly say that in so many words because no politician wants to publicly say that we want our currency to weaken. But they do believe that one of the reasons the US has become relatively deindustrialized, if not in terms of production, definitely in terms of jobs on manufacturing side, true, false, partially true is a separate discussion, is because the US dollar has been so strong, American financial markets have been very strong, that industrialization or reshoring or onshoring has not happened. So they want the dollar to at least cyclically, if not structurally, devalue. So de-dollarization is not the right term. De-dollarization implies something permanent, something structural. We are talking about a 5 to 10 year cycle here. They want it to weaken cyclically. They want the Chinese currency to appreciate. They're in fact using the threat of tariffs partially to negotiate on that whenever that starts. So far, Xi Jinping and Donald Trump have not even had a phone call, apparently. Whenever that starts, one of the key asks of the Trump team will be, you appreciate the Chinese yuan against the dollar. Although in the short term, the Chinese are more likely to slightly depreciate it because, you put a tariff on me, I try to depreciate my currency to try to minimize the effect on my exports to you. Right? Because by devaluing my currency, my exports become slightly more competitive again. Because you are buying in dollar terms. So if your dollar goes a bit further in yuan terms, you can buy a bit more from me. But in this time, the Chinese do that, that is likely to lead to more tariffs from the US side. Because they're saying this is the problem we want to solve. We don't want to make it permanent longer. Even if we can't fully solve it, let's solve it partially. So their team is not saying it very openly, but Ray Dalio, for example, a hedge fund manager who went to Beijing recently, he came out, wrote a couple of tweets about it. Stephen Miran, the chief economic advisor in the US, he has written about it. Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, he has talked about it. And Donald Trump and JD Vance also believe that the dollar is too strong. They would rather call it China is manipulating its currency by keeping it too undervalued. That's a politically more palatable message to sell, but effectively they're the two are the same thing. So they also wanted to reduce. So what happened in 1985 was a Plaza Accord. This time people are calling it a Mar-a-Lago Accord, which is the Florida residence of Donald Trump. You can call it a Zhongnanhai Accord, which is what I call the residence of Xi Jinping.
If you learned something new from this video, do share it with your friends and subscribe to this channel so that we can bring you the best content possible. Also, if you want to watch this entire episode, click on the link in the description box and you can go to Kushal Lodha YouTube channel and watch the entire podcast episode. Thank you so much for watching this and have an amazing day.